It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hi, good morning. Thank you for being here. Welcome to a Thursday morning. Happy Thursday. You know, I was thinking. I was actually thinking that's it. I'm done.
We'll do an hour on that.
I was actually thinking. Really? Wow. Doesn't sound like it. But I was thinking about Doge and they're talking about it in Congress. Yesterday, the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee was on the topic, and Democrats, again, just going nuts. In fact, this is Republican Representative Eli Crane from Arizona who actually said this.
Mr. Chairman, would it be possible to get some therapy dogs in here for my colleagues on the other side of the aisle?
We could ask Mr. Raskin Shrink to...
I'm worried about their mental stability.
Wow. But I was thinking because people look at Doge and say, well, it's the will of the American people.
Yeah. And
I know the American people want waste gone, and the American people probably want a lot of the foreign aid gone.
Right.
Will foreign aid disappear completely? No, because it's something that every executive branch uses, and even this president will use it to some degree.
Mm.
But I actually look at Doge in a way of something of Trump not being a follower, but being a leader.
Yeah.
Because the American public was not demanding yet. They wanted inflation cured, but the American public was not out there. You and I know, we cover it every day.
Mm.
The American public was not out there saying we need to go line by line through the budget and do it. They might have been thinking about it, but it wasn't an active mindset that people were protesting or had on social media or anything. That was Trump being a leader.
Yeah.
That was Trump being a leader and say, look, we need to cut these guys. This is going to be serious down the road. We have to do this. I look at it sort of the same thing as Roosevelt with Lend-Lease with Great Britain during beginning of World War II. Because when you look at it, when the Lend-Lease was going on, the polls, America was, think about this. Think about, we talk about isolationism. Think about this in like 1939. I've seen some of the polls from 1939. They'd probably all be Gallup polls at that point. But it was like 90 to 95% of Americans did not want to get involved in World War II.
Right.
Roosevelt knew we were going to be involved in World War II. We could not let Europe fail completely.
Right.
The Japanese took care of that for us. But the fact is, it changed like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Roosevelt knew that if Germany overtook Europe and if Japan took over all of Asia and the Pacific, they were coming after the United States.
Yeah.
The American public didn't seem to care about that. Well, that's when a leader says, okay, we've got to do this, and we have to start preparing in some way. And I look at the same thing for Trump. The American public was not screaming to cut the budget drastically.
Right.
Or to go line by line and do it. And he said, I'm going to do it. We're going to do this. And I think it's wonderful because I think one of the things, especially when you have, and this is where I hope on where Trump is right, which is the majority of things out there, that the majority of Congress backs him because he is setting the table right now by being out there with Doge, for example. It's now becoming news. Well, what are we spending money on? Every single day, it's something else. And I'll tell you this, I haven't asked you this question. I think you might agree with me and say yes on this. The intensity of educating the public is much greater than I thought it was going to be.
Well, and because it's not just the GOP going out, and campaigning for these items and saying, well, what we need to do is blah, blah. It's a full-on debate. So everything that comes up, the liberal activist media wants to debate it. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
Because the truth works every time. It's going to work in their favor, and the American public will see it in a different light. It's like, okay, what is actually going on? What is Doge? What are they proposing? What power does Elon Musk have? Does he really have authority? Well, the answer is no. It's an advisory role. And then you go through about what we're spending money on.
Right.
And all these things people are learning or waking up or refreshing their memory or whatever. But they're seeing this. We said this going back, 9 years, 2016, on the debate stage. Throw those things that are true at Hillary every single time, and the media will fact check you. The debate will happen, not just on stage, but after the debate, people will be looking up the truth.
And what you see here from the Democrats is they're not really hitting the Democrats aren't hitting the actual issues that the cuts are wrong.
Right.
They may get around the edges like they did yesterday with the Politico stuff and say they're not grants and basically these are subscriptions, and the subscriptions to these publications to get through the paywall are necessary for all these politicians in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the American public's probably going, are they?
Are they really? Yeah.
Are they really?
Right.
Well, let me look into this here. And then when they came out and said, and it's wrong to say the Politico got all the money because all the money was spread between a number of liberal publications.
Oh.
And so we caught the Republicans in a mistake.
Okay.
Really?
And you brought up something brand new.
Really?
Let's talk about it.
And so, as you just pointed out, the Democrats are saying, Elon Musk was not elected. He doesn't get to do this. And you answered it correctly. No, he doesn't. By himself, he doesn't get to do it. Under the authority of the President of the United States and his cabinet, whether it's a Secretary of State or the Treasury Secretary, which has given him permission to do so, he does have the permission to do so.
Right.
Because the elected representative, the president, through his cabinet, who reports to the God, we have to explain our damn government to the liberals.
I know.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Do you understand how the country works? You know, and so that argument's gone very quickly. You defeat that argument very quickly, and so what does it get back to? Are the cuts necessary? And then I see this here, this headline here, and what Trump is doing. He knows he's going to be stopped. You know, the courts are going to, jump in on this.
Right.
The courts are going to jump in. Whatever, but he wants to have that fight because as long as he's having that fight, the American public, they get to debate the issue with the Democrats and the American public, with the American public listening, and the Democrats actually don't want to debate the issues.
Right.
And the same thing here. Newly sworn in U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondie has gotten straight to work on her first day, this is from Breitbart, by directing the Department of Justice to pause all federal funding for sanctuary cities, according to a Wednesday report. Bondie's day one directives, obtained by Fox News, showed a heavy focus on countering illegal immigration and drug cartels, as she also ordered the Department of Justice to evaluate funding to non-governmental organizations that support illegal migrants. Now, they're going to go crazy, right? You're taking money away from us.
Yep.
And what does that do? That focuses the debate again on the actual issue of sanctuary cities.
Right.
And
brings up the question, should they be getting federal funding?
Should they be getting federal funding, and especially right now with what the focus is from the administration, should you get federal funding as a city if you are protecting illegal immigrants who have committed crimes in this country?
Right.
You cannot win that with the American public.
Right.
Reagan did the same thing and went to the American people. Trump, in his way, is going to the American people by doing this, and that's what you have to do when you only have a very small sliver of a lead, for example, in the House of Representatives.
Right. Well, and what's interesting, if the ultimate effect, which I suspect it will be, of the whole dual press conference the other day on Gaza is, oh, okay, what will really happen is you're just going to get rid of Hamas. Okay. So we're not buying Gaza. Well, maybe, no, we're not buying Gaza. But you're just getting rid of Hamas. Okay, yeah, then fine. Well, that's light years compared to where we were when people were pro-Hamas supporters out protesting, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they're still out there. But the liberal activist media, the tone is changing drastically. I think it's because a lot of the audience is going away. If you don't believe it from the people in office, you don't believe it from them. You don't buy into what they're selling. And if you're one of those like Mark Pincus or others, Michael Rappaport, that realizes all those lies being told, you understand that the media was a big part of carrying those lies, telling those lies, carrying the water for the left, which was lies. And you look at that and say, I don't need them. I don't want them. I don't want anything to do with what they're trying to do. Something has to change. Just like with the Democratic Party, the liberal activist media is going to find its place either somewhere else, scattered into the YouTube verse or podcast verse, or gone completely, because there really is no bringing an audience together in a big way anymore for them. I don't know how they do that, and I don't know how you bring people together in a big way to win massive elections as a party. So they've run into the very basics of the problems presented by reality, what's going on with people, but it's the fundamentals. Whether you're trying to gain an audience on cable news or you're trying to win an election, you've got to bring people together, and they've been doing nothing but separating. Nothing but separating people. They're working against themselves, and they still don't see it. And this is the great thing about what's happening here. You know, Trump is bringing up all of these things. They're reporting on all these things. Elon Musk, Gaza, all of these things has people fact-checking for themselves. You are the media. You can find the truth yourself.
And the other thing that's making a difference here, because we've talked about the first 2 weeks, and some of this was based on input I got from my friends going, is Trump doing okay in the first 2 weeks? Because they know my position on the whole tariff thing and where I disagree with the president on that. And you know, and they expect, and I went, no, he said a wonderful first 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. You know, again, I'm not going to agree with him 100%, but on so many of the major things, he's hitting home runs, and the Democrats are absolutely in a meltdown.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, that's really what you get out of the first, you know, two and a half weeks of this administration is, and I said, not that anything's changing with Trump. He's just going ahead and doing things that's much more organized than he was before. The most interesting thing I see is that the Democrats are completely lost, and they're screaming and they're yelling. Doesn't matter where they are. They're completely unhinged, whether they're on CNN, whether they're on MSNBC, whether it's members of Congress. They're just losing it. They're just furious. And they've taken it up to another level of hysteria, and the level below this is why they lost the 2024 election.
Right.
And it's fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
And you just wonder, because the question to me is, how do they change and become a viable party?
Right.
You know, that's one of the reasons with tariffs or whatever. I want to make sure that we do not have inflation. Inflation, this president has to solve inflation. He has to.
Right.
And because you can do all this great stuff. If you don't solve inflation, Democrats can get elected again.
Right.
And that's why it's imperative. So we'll see. It's still early, but, man, I'm telling you, the Democrats are just nuts.
A couple of weeks. It's only been a couple of weeks.
I know. 866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by Howes Products. Tested, trusted, Guaranteed since 1920.
Tax season. It can also be a heightened season for scammers and identity thieves to part with perhaps your money or some of your personal information. For example,
agencies like the IRS, they don't call you up and then come take your house. With the IRS, they're going to be sending you lots of letters. There's going to be lots of interactions. They don't just come and take your house as a first step.
That example provided by Andrew Zumwalt of University of Missouri Extension is one of several pressure tactics scammers apply to obtain details like social security numbers and bank account information or have money sent by non-traditional services. What to do? He suggests hanging up the phone on this questionable call or solicitation and getting trusted advice.
Have a loved one or someone that you trust that you can call and say, hey, I just got this phone call and I just don't know what to do, and really help navigate these scams so that you can avoid them.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, the Army hits its best recruitment month in 15 years.
Yeah, recruitment was on the increase after the election. Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Also, we'll tell you about the Democrat that got a buddy of mine calling me yesterday, messaging me yesterday saying, blah, 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 this Al Green. And so I sent him an Al Green song, not Congressman Al Green, but
different Al Green.
I said, I love Al Green. He goes, I knew that was coming from you. But he launches the first impeachment articles against Trump. Yeah. And it's like, yawn. And we have the best audio cut. You know, we've talked about Democrats believing that they're victims. This is the best thing. It was on CNN. And it was, from one of their contributors who went nuts, absolutely nuts, saying that because she's African-American, she's been the least paid person in every media and every job she's ever had. Oh. All she's ever done is work for the liberal media and for the Democrats, and that's why DEI is needed, which makes our case that we've always said the racism exists. It's in the identity politics of the Democrats that believe you judge people by groups and not individuals. And she's making the claim that DEI is needed because Democrats are racist.
Yeah.
She didn't say it that way, but that's what she's communicating. Right. And I'm like, do they even know? Do they even listen? Are they... Is their mouth in a bubble outside of their the bubble of their brain?
Nope.
I'm telling you, it's just too damn easy.
It really is.
Oh.
And every day they get a little bit louder, right? They get a little bit louder. And it's like, well, no. We heard you the first time, and our response was November of 24. And they think, well, if they just keep going, they'll change things. When I saw the impeachment thing from the Congressman Al Green in the House yesterday, I was like, okay, fine. Here we go. Yawn.
I really went to YouTube and I listened to like 2 or 3 Al Green songs.
I did. Yeah.
It's like, wow, I forgot how good he is.
Oh my gosh. He did a cover of Ray Price's For the Good Times.
Oh yeah.
That will make you cry. It's so good.
I'm so glad he filed those articles of impeachment.
Yeah.
I got to listen to some music I hadn't listened to in a while.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Our show becomes our podcast after the show's done. We record the show, and you can listen during the day if you can't listen at night anymore. And it's that simple. Or if you can only catch an hour at night, because we know it's we start out the show. This show is so darn long that we start out when people are going to sleep, and some of them when they're waking up.
Yeah. Like our production staff.
Imagine the people, because you know what happens. There are people that fall asleep to us, and all of a sudden, maybe I'll go, ah! And I wake them up. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sleeping, Gary.
Right.
Shut up. But it's our Red Eye Radio app, and it's free for the first 3 months and then free for the rest of the time.
Our paywall, we think, is a bargain. There's no paywall. We
have no paywall.
Yeah.
Well, don't say never. We're not in charge of that.
Well,
let's get extra revenue. Now we'll be against it.
Yeah, no.
Well, we'll be against it on the air and be collecting cash off it behind the scenes.
Well, to finish, we'll never be able to charge a paywall because nobody would pay it.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Yeah. We'll never be in that game. That's not work. But
Trump
for free, it's okay.
Trump has announced tariffs will apply to our show.
Exactly. Because if it's the internet, it is from outside. It is also outside the U.S. Oh, wait a minute.
Is our server outside the U.S. sending it back?
I don't think it is.
No,
but
it's not.
Our reach is outside the U.S., which means, the whole what you make in revenue outside the U.S., and we're going to tax that for the Democrats, not Trump. But that's what I'm thinking. Down the road, Democrats might come back. Hey,
can we move on from this nightmare you just brought up?
I think we should shut it down. Alan, edit this part out of the podcast, would you? Crap, it's got to stay in? Okay, never mind.
All right. This is just beautiful. This is one of the contributors at CNN to the Scott Jennings panel. That's what we'll call it, because everybody knows it's everybody in there. And this is Ashley Allison, who is one of the contributors. And she's trying to make the case that she's a victim and that DEI is necessary. But listen to what she says, and then we'll be very precise of what she is communicating, which really is, some of it is true. But here we go.
All right.
I do not have the same opportunity as you. I know I don't.
And you know
and
that
I know
too.
what, Scott?
And you know that.
Let me just tell you about me.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I want to answer this.
I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about how I feel. Me, a black woman in this country.
But not in this city.
And I will run. And if you want
I'm a New Yorker, not in this city. You cannot say that. You can't say that in this city. But I'm not
talking about New York. I'm talking about Ashley Allison right here. I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all of y'all added up together at this table, right? And I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in. And it's not because...
Even in the White House?
Even in the White House.
Well, whose fault is that? I don't think you worked for George W. or Trump.
Well, guess what happened when I was there? DEI.
So, all she's ever worked for is liberal institutions and liberal government.
Yep. And was the lowest paid.
And was the lowest paid.
That's her claim, yeah.
Because she's black.
Right.
That's her claim, not our claim. That's what she said, which backs us up. We can understand it because there is some partial truth there. And the truth part of it is what we've always said. And we said this in the summer of 2020 when the left was out there and the Democrats, systemic racism exists in all institutions of this country. And we said, well, actually, you're right. Systemic racism does exist, and it's been institutionalized in one of the biggest organizations in the United States. Mm-hmm. It's called the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party is, and what she is saying is that liberal institutions need DEI because they're racist.
Yep.
I love it. I'm sorry. I got Banya in my head from Seinfeld saying, man, that's gold.
Yeah.
That's gold, Gary. That's gold.
And she doesn't understand what she's actually saying.
No, she doesn't. I am having more fun.
It's like your teenager coming out of their bedroom saying, my bedroom is filthy. Yeah, no, that's why I told you to clean it. Somebody should clean it. I mean, it's...
Best story ever. I worked with a talk show host who told me one time.
Mm-hmm.
They were one of the best stories ever. And he said he and his family went on vacation. And they got a call from the cops. They said, you need to come back home. Your house has been ransacked. It's been burglarized. You need to come in, and part of it's been ransacked.
Right.
And so they come back, and, they get into the house and everything else. The cops had locked the door and everything else. It took them, a couple hours to get back. And they go in, they go, everything was fine. And they get the cops, go, what are you talking about? They go, oh, the one bedroom's been completely ransacked. He goes, no, it's just his bedroom.
Right.
The cops thought it was ransacked.
They tore everything apart.
Oh,
nah, he did that.
And that's actually a story for anybody listening on our great affiliate, WROK. That was a story from Chris Bowman, the late Chris Bowman, who said that on the air. Oh, my God, that was one of the funniest things ever, because the way he told the story was great.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Come back. It's been burglarized. He walks into the bedroom. Nah, it's just the bedroom.
Yeah, no, it always looks like that. There's been a crime committed here.
Oh, my God.
I've worked for countless liberal organizations and have always been the lowest paid.
I don't want to end the show on a down note, but I may have to here.
Okay, what do you got?
No, I'm not. I'm gonna hit the other stuff. Wait
a minute. Well, now you got to say what you were going to do.
Oh, okay. Josh Hawley put out a statement yesterday that he still wants to do what Bernie Sanders wants to do and have a 10% interest cap on all credit cards.
All right.
This is bad, Josh Hawley. Price controls. Republicans are against price controls on everything but what? Credit?
All right.
You know what's going to happen if you put 10%? You know how many people won't have credit cards anymore?
Oh, yeah, it'll be gone. It'll be reduced greatly.
Yeah.
And those with great credit will always pay close to 10%. It will always, because they'll have to average that out. They'll have to make the money from who? They'll have to make the money from people who have good credit. So they'll have to pass that along to them, and those who don't have great credit are going to lose their credit lines. That's the ultimate effect.
Yep. All right, so we won't end with that.
All right, yeah.
We'll cover that.
Let's not talk about that at all.
No, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, no, we will, announced Wednesday that the Army had its best recruitment month in 15 years in January of 2025.
Yeah.
Wow. In December of 2024, the U.S. Army had its best recruiting number in 12 years, knowing Trump was coming in.
Mm-hmm.
The Army hit its best recruiting number in 15 years in January. Wow.
Interesting, because you think about this dynamic, right? You enlist, and Trump will be in office for 4 years. So you sign up for 4 years, right? And see where it goes. But enlistment had dropped. I mean, recruiting was way down under Biden. It was a problem. I have a family member who just got out. But, they offered him big money more than he thought he would be offered to stay, and he's getting out. He got a private sector job and is going to start that next month. So recruitment, though, is way, way down. Who would want to serve under Biden? I know people want to serve, and by the way, God bless everybody who did serve under Biden.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because they still believe in, the ultimate goal of defending freedom, and that's always a good thing. And it's tragic that you get to a point where you're commander in chief. And I think Afghanistan really was probably, I would love to see it in a poll of those who served, but probably one of the greatest effects in that regard. And because he lied and lied and lied and lied and still lies about Afghanistan.
When you're willing to sacrifice everything, including your life,
yeah,
you absolutely want somebody who has your back.
Sure.
Who you know is going to do everything possible to ensure that you have the best lethal fighting force and the best backup when you need it.
Right.
And there's more confidence, obviously, in a Trump. Than there ever was with a.
Well, and it's the whole thing about building unity too. If you think about, Hegseth talked about that, but building unity, because it's peace through strength. That strength has to be unity.
Well, it's not, because when they talk about, and Hegseth said what you and I have said for years, the country isn't great because of diversity at all. It's great because of unity.
Right.
It's the unity of the mission and the mission of a country, which the mission of our country, you could look at it and say, is the Constitution of the United States, and the preamble to that would be the Declaration of Independence, what the goal is, what the mission statement is.
Right.
And the mission statement, that's what brings unity. You're united by those common values that you have. That's what unites you. You don't get it because you say, well, we're diverse, and we're going to point out why everybody is diverse and who has it better than someone else.
Right.
You're dividing at that point.
Right.
Any idiot knows that one.
Right.
Which is why DEI is wrong. And finally, Joe Rogan fired back at the Harris campaign, or the former Harris campaign. They have it after the campaign, suggested that he purposely, and this is in quotes, effed the interview negotiations with the former vice president in favor of then candidate Donald Trump. And Rogan said, claiming it sounds like they're trying to cover their boom. Last month, excerpts of the book Fight, Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House by Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnes detailed the campaign's failure to book an interview for then Vice President Harris on the Joe Rogan Experience. In The Expert, the Harris campaign argued Rogan's team made several difficult demands, including a refusal to meet on October 25th because it was Rogan's personal day. The Harris campaign later alleged that they found out Rogan had sat down with Trump on that same day despite refusing to meet with Harris. Rogan denied this accusation on his podcast Wednesday, saying the real problem was Harris never committed to a show. And we know she didn't.
Right.
We have all the receipts, by the way. I love that term, by the way.
Yeah.
That seems to really have become to the forefront in the last couple of months.
Yep.
Wait a minute. We got the receipts.
We got the receipts.
We've got all the receipts. Rogan said, I have a whole list of conversations that took place. They never said she was going to do it. Ever. Well, we knew she wasn't ever going to do it. We knew it. She couldn't do a 3-hour interview. Stop lying
Not
for her.
going to happen. She set up an impossible match. Match these requirements, I'll do it. And she knew it was never going to happen because she didn't want it to.
Right. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. By the way, how are they doing on the most important issue here, the Trump administration? Are they moving that forward? You know, the most important thing.
Yeah, which one? What's that?
No taxes on Social Security.
Remember,
I start collecting right at the end of September.
Right.
You know, right around October 1st, which is the end of the fiscal year, which I'd like to see, you know, the no taxes on Social Security. That is the most important thing. And there's nothing selfish about that at all. I'm just thinking of everybody that collects Social Security.
Now, here's the good news. If they wait long enough, there will be no Social Security to tax. So,
I got to make sure I say this every time. I'm not retiring.
No.
I just...
No.
I have to collect Social Security on that day. I'm being forced.
Yeah, you're trying to get Doge involved, but you don't want them too involved.
No, we don't want Doge to cut back on my Social Security, do we?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.